Only two campaigns have a plausible path to the nomination, ours and Donald Trump's. Nobody else has any mathematical possibility whatsoever. Only one campaign has beaten Donald Trump over and over and over again.
Well, Senator Ted Cruz remained resolute despite multiple disappointing losses against Donald Trump, but in contention in many states and still hopes to win Missouri. But can the Texas senator catch up and even blow past Trump before the July convention? Joining us right now is the former CEO of Hewlett-Packard and former 2016 Republican presidential candidate herself, Carly Fiorina. She's also a debate superstar like Ted Cruz and a supporter now of Senator Ted Cruz. Great to see you, Carly. Welcome back.
Good morning, Brian. How are you? Thanks for having me.
No problem. Inside the Cruz camp, they almost got what they wanted. Ted Cruz goes, get me one-on-one with Donald Trump. How much does Governor Kasich get in the way of that?
Well, look, Governor Kasich won his home state, I think sort of a minimum expectation, but honestly, he has no path. As Ted Cruz said last night, there are only two candidates who have a path to the nomination. And I would point something else out for your viewers. You know, you just had a story about President Obama nominating the next Supreme Court justice. This is why people should unify now behind Ted Cruz. We know exactly the kind of justice that Ted Cruz will appoint. We have no clue what Donald Trump will appoint. We don't know what his principles are. In fact, what he said is that he's going to do a deal. That's what he always says. He's going to do a deal with Chuck Schumer and Harry Reid on his Supreme Court picks. Look, it's not just the White House that hangs in the balance. The Supreme Court hangs in the balance. We need a constitutional conservative in the White House because we need another constitutional conservative on the bench of the Supreme Court. So I urge Republican voters to unify now behind Ted Cruz.
Right, so the delegate map looks like this. Trump with 621 as we wait for Missouri to come in. Cruz with 396, Kasich with 138. And as John Roberts just emailed me, taking Missouri would bring an extra 12 delegates if he does in fact win. It's too close to call right now to whoever ends up winning that state. But in the big picture, the math is almost impossible for Ted Cruz to overcome. Having said that, the National Review's Rich Lowry said any other frontrunner at this point in the past would basically been anointed the nominee. What's the problem, Carly Fiorina, with letting the people speak and giving Trump the nomination?
Well, first, let's talk about which people are speaking. Look, I take nothing away from Donald Trump's victories, but he's winning for the most part in open primaries. That is, there are Democrats and independents who are voting for him. When we have closed primaries or caucuses, generally speaking, Ted Cruz has won. The last time I looked, Republican primary voters ought to pick their nominee. And it's also true that I have said from the very moment almost that Donald Trump announced his candidacy, he doesn't represent me, and he doesn't represent my party, and there are a whole lot of Republicans. In fact, 65 to 70% of Republicans say they're not going to vote for Donald Trump. So I think Republican primary voters are speaking.
Do you think he's
and I
getting
hope other
Democrats,
Republican Party voters would unify behind Ted Cruz, and I hope the establishment will unify behind Ted Cruz, because John Kasich cannot win.
Okay, so you would hope for Kasich to step aside and leave it one-on-one Cruz, Trump, and actually Donald Trump says he would like that too. Carly Fiorina, always great to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Brian.